Clara stood by the window of her small one-room apartment, looking out at the busy city light. Rain was dropping gently, making soft sound on the old metal window. The night was cold, and she wrapped her arms around her big belly for cozy feelings. She was 8 months pregnant and all by herself. She had never imagined her life would turn out this way. Not long ago, Clara had been the golden girl of her family, smart, beautiful and ambitious. She had dreams of becoming a lawyer. She had gained admission into the university, the first in her family to do so. Her father had slaughtered a goat in celebration, and her mother danced through the village square, proud tears running down her cheeks. Clara represented their chance for a better life, shining a light on the path out of poverty. She met Desmond in her second year at the university, a final year medical student with a charming smile and dangerous eyes. He was everything she thought she wanted: intelligent, confident and well-dressed. When he spoke, she listened. When he smiled, she melted. He promised her the world, and like a small insect flying towards light, Clara couldn't stay away. She gave him her trust, her heart, and then her body. The day she told him she was pregnant, his reaction was distant. "Clara, this can't happen now. You know I have plans. What will my family say?" He frowned. She begged him to stand by her, but he was already slipping away like a ghost in daylight. He blocked her number, changed hostel, moved on like she never existed. By the time she returned home, belly slightly showing, the shame wrapped around her like chains. Her father, who once looked at her with pride, couldn't even meet her eyes. Her mother wept day and night. The whispers from neighbors were sharp as blade. The falling star, the university girl who couldn't keep her legs closed. Clara tried to be strong. She took a job at the roadside inn, washing plates and serving rice, just to buy baby clothes and save for delivery. Her dreams of a courtroom vanished. Her textbooks gathered dust in the corner of her room. Every night, she cried herself to sleep, the weight of rejection, failure and fear pressing her chest until she could barely breathe. But she never once thought about aborting the baby. "This child," she whispered to herself, "is mine. Even if the world abandons me, I will never abandon her." She didn't know yet if the baby would be a girl or a boy, but she spoke to her growing child every day like she was speaking to her best friend. It was the only thing she had that gave her hope. Then, one cold rainy morning, the contraction started. Alone in her room, with no one to call, no one to help, Clara stumbled out into the street, hailing down a motorcycle. "Take me to the general hospital," she cried out, clutching her belly. The ride was full of bombs, pains, and quiet prayers. When they reached the hospital, she collapsed at the entrance. Nurses rushed her in. The delivery was difficult. There were tears. There were moments she thought she could die. And then a baby's cry filled the air. "It's a baby girl," a nurse said. But something was wrong. The nurses exchanged glances. The doctor frowned slightly as he examined the baby. Her eyes were different, her fingers short and chubby. There was a looseness in her joint that made her body feel too soft. Hours later, after Clara woke from exhaustion, the doctor stood before her. "Your daughter," he began gently, "shows signs of a condition called Down syndrome." Clara blinked slowly, the words foreign, heavy, terrifying. "She will need a special care, therapies, medical support. It's a genetic disorder. It's not your fault at all," he added quickly, "but it will be a journey." Clara turned her head to look at her newborn. Her skin was so soft, shade of brown, her eyes barely open, but her tiny hands held Clara's finger with surprising strength. Tears slipped down Clara's cheek. Her name is Treasure, she whispered, because that's what she is to me. Clara's mother came to the hospital 2 days later. Her face was tight with emotions, worry, confusion, and shame all tangled together. She refused to hold the baby. "Clara, are you sure this is what you want? To raise this kind of child alone? You already brought shame to the family by getting pregnant, and now this. A child that may not walk, may not talk, never grow or even marry. Clara's throat tightened. She didn't want to argue. She just turned her face away, shielding Treasure's tiny body with her arms. Her mother left in silence that evening and didn't return. The hospital discharge was quiet. No one came with baby clothes, no proud father to snap pictures. Clara wrapped Treasure with a blanket and walked out of the hospital on her own, her arms trembling with the weight of her newborn, her heart heavier. Back home, the whispers became louder. She got pregnant, and now see the child she gave birth to. This must be a form of punishment. Some even said Treasure was an ogbanje, a cursed spirit that came to the world only to bring suffering. The baby cried a whole lot. Painful cries that broke Clara's heart. She carried Treasure from one hospital to another, hoping for help. The doctors said she had a problem with her chromosomes. They explained she would need special care, like physical therapy, and that she might grow and learn more slowly than other children. Each hospital visit meant hours in crowded waiting rooms, blood tests, injections, and more bills than Clara could count. Her job at the roadside inn no longer paid enough. Sometimes she would eat one square meal so that she could buy drugs or diaper. One day, while sitting at the government hospital, holding a feverish Treasure close to her chest, Clara overheard two nurses whispering, "She's still carrying this child about. It will be better she drops her somewhere. Life can never be easy with her." Clara stood up slowly. She looked them straight to the face, and she said, "She is my child. She is not a burden. She is not a mistake. She is Treasure, and she's going to be someone someday." The nurses stared at her in silence as she walked away. When the doctors couldn't give Clara any hope, the pressure on her to try other options grew stronger. "Go to Prophet Ezekiel," one woman from her neighborhood said. "That man, he can pray fire down from heaven. Your baby will be healed." Clara was desperate. She had seen Treasure suffer from recurring infection, weak muscles, slow development. She had prayed and cried. So when the woman offered to take her, Clara agreed. The church is a small wooden building on the edge of the town with dust and palm trees all around. Inside the church, people clapped, sang, and cried with strong feelings. The prophet, a tall man wearing a robe with sharp eyes, placed his hands on Treasure and spoke in a strange language. "She is under attack," he declared. "Witches in your family have placed a curse on this child, but we will break it." That night, Clara slept on the church floor with Treasure beside her, fasting and praying through the cold for 3 days. She endured oil anointing, loud prayers, and strange rituals. But when they returned home, nothing changed. Treasure was still the same. Still, Clara didn't give up. She took Treasure to a herbalist deep in the village who promised a cleansing. The woman placed the baby in a herb that smelled like ash and smoke. She whispered incantations and tied a red thread around Treasure's waist. But Clara knew deep inside that her baby didn't need any cleansing. She wasn't possessed. She wasn't cursed. She was simply different. One night, Clara stood watching Treasure as she lay asleep on a mattress. She was 2 years old and barely sits up on her own, but her eyes held a bright spark that made Clara feel full of hope and love. "I don't care what they say," Clara whispered. "You are mine. You are beautiful, and I will fight for you with everything I have. She kissed her daughter's forehead, and for the first time in weeks, she smiled. It wasn't until Treasure turned 4 that she said her first full word, Mama. Clara wept, not soft tears, but deep, uncontrollably. She scooped her daughter into her arms, spinning her around in the small room, laughing and crying all at once. It had taken years of speech therapy, free sessions at a community center, guided by a kind woman named Mrs. Ada, who took a special interest in Treasure. The woman taught Treasure to vocalize sounds using picture cards, songs, and games. She's smart, Mrs. Ada said to Clara one afternoon. Her brain works differently, but don't ever think she can't learn. Just be patient, be consistent. That became Clara's new phrase, patient and consistent. She began to build a daily routine. Mornings were for reading colorful books and practicing words. Afternoon were for walks and therapy. Evenings were for prayers, for soft tones and long cuddles. Slowly, Treasure began to flourish. At 6, she took her first step without falling. School was not easy for Treasure. At first, no school in their area wanted to admit her. She won't cope, the proprietress of one government school said bluntly. We don't have teachers for children like her. Clara refused to be discouraged. She begged, cried, and wrote letters. Eventually, one small private school run by a retired teacher named Madame Uju agreed to take Treasure on the condition that Clara helped clean the classrooms every weekend to reduce the fees. At 7, she joined a special needs class, and every time Treasure came home with new words, a new drawing, or a bright smile, Clara felt something growing inside, strong and bright pride that filled her heart. Madame Uju took a liking to Treasure quickly. She may be slow, but her eyes, they listened, she told Clara one day. It's true Treasure struggled with numbers and long sentences, but she had a sharp memory. She loved colors, pictures, and songs. Madame Uju adjusted the lesson plan slightly, using flashcards, drawing boards, and learning games, and slowly, Treasure began to catch up. She was often mocked by her classmates. Olodo, they whispered when she didn't understand. Why does she even blink so fast? Some asked. Each insult cut Clara deeply, but Treasure never shed a tear. She would sit calmly, then go back to the reading board with strong, steady focus. By primary 6, she was reading short sentences aloud. She had potentials, Madame Uju said. She just needs time. Let her take the exam. Clara fasted and prayed. The day for the common entrance exam, Treasure carried a pencil and her tattered exercise book and sat among 50 children in a hall. She didn't come out top, but she passed barely. For Clara, it was more than enough. They celebrated with jollof rice and one boiled egg. That night, Clara knelt beside her daughter and whispered, "You are my pride, my treasure. The world just doesn't know you yet." Secondary schools brought new handles. The workload increased. Treasure had just repeated JS1 twice. She still spoke with difficulty, and her movements were not steady, but her writing got better, and she grew very interested in science. She kept a small notebook where she drew pictures of the human body and labeled them in a slanting words. "Mama, this is the heart. It pumps blood," she would say proudly. Clara kept every drawing like gold. In JS3, a new teacher was posted to the school, Mr. Fred, a young man just back from NYSC. He was assigned to teach integrated science. He noticed Treasure immediately. "She's very attentive," he said to Clara one evening. "Slow with words, yes, but she asks deep questions. She thinks like a researcher." Mr. Fred introduced her to YouTube videos on biology, sent her links to child-friendly science games, and encouraged her to join a local inter-school science club for special learners. Treasure began to shine. She made a cardboard project of the circulatory system and won second place in the local education fair. One of the judges, a woman from the international NGO, was so moved by Treasure's presentation that she requested a home visit. She met Clara in their small parlor and spent hours listening to Treasure explain her diagram. She took photos and wrote notes. 2 months later, a letter arrived in the mail. Dear Miss Clara, we are pleased to inform you that your daughter Treasure has been selected as a candidate for the Global Champions Educational Sponsorship Program, a scholarship initiative for children with exceptional challenges and extraordinary promise. The letter came with a plane ticket, visa application form, and instruction for interviews. Clara read the letter 3 times before she understood what it meant. She ran to the neighbor's house screaming. That night, they danced together. Clara turned on her old cassette radio, and Treasure laughed with joy as she revolved around the small room. And from that day, the journey of greatness truly began. The day Treasure boarded the plane to leave for her studies abroad, Clara held her like she would never let her go. At 23, Treasure was brave, confident, and full of determination. She wore thick glasses, spoke with a slight slow, and walked carefully. But she was very smart and had a strong, loving heart. She earned the scholarship by getting the highest score in the adaptive science classes and writing a touching personal essay called Different, Not Less. The judges were deeply moved. Opportunities quickly followed. Clara, who had fought so hard to protect her child, now stood at the airport waving goodbye. Tears ran down her face and soaked her wrapper, but her heart was full of pride. For 6 years, Treasure studied medicine abroad. First, a pre-med course, then medical school. Clara called her every week, even though Treasure's accent began to shift and her vocabulary stretched far beyond Clara's understanding. And then, one morning, Clara woke up to the sound of a convoy stopping in front of her compound. People gathered, peeping through their window, whispering, "What is that? What is happening?" Clara stepped out slowly, wiping her hands in her wrapper. A black SUV door opened. A young lady stepped out, glowing, tall, elegant. Her posture was poised, her walk confident, her clothes fine. Her face carried the slightest trace of her childhood features, Clara knew. But her eyes, her nose, her entire presence had transformed. "Mama," she said softly. Clara staggered. "Jesus, who is that?" The lady laughed, her voice rich and melodic. "It's me, Treasure." Clara's legs gave way. She fell to the ground, weeping uncontrollably. Neighbors rushed out. People screamed in disbelief. The girl who once couldn't hold her head up, now a vision, flawless skin, polished speech, a doctor with credentials, an international award. But it wasn't her appearance that stunned them. It was what she came back for. 3 months after her return, bulldozers arrived at the edge of the town. A massive construction project began. No one understood what was going on until a banner was unveiled. Treasure's Heaven Specialist Hospital, a sanctuary for children with special needs. Clara was invited to the foundation laying ceremony. She sat under the canopy in lace blouse and gold headtie, escorted in a car she didn't own, treated like royalty. Pastors, local politicians, journalists, and community elders gathered. Treasure took the stage. "I was born with Down syndrome. Some said I wouldn't walk. Some said I wouldn't talk. Many said I wouldn't amount to anything. But my mother, Her voice broke as she looked at Clara. She never gave up on me. This hospital is for every child like me, and it is in her honor. Tears streamed down Clara's face. The same woman they called Curse now has her name inscribed in gold. And Treasure didn't stop there. Behind the hospital, she founded Treasure's Nest, a cutting-edge residential care facility providing a loving home for abandoned children with special needs. Hired specialists, therapists, and caregivers, it became a refuge for the forgotten. Each child received care, education, and love. Reporters came from across the country to interview her. Televisions aired her story. The president sent a personal commendation. She was invited to speak at international conferences. With her success came attention. Many young men, often from wealthy and influential families, came to visit her, bringing gifts, writing poems, and giving flowers. They were eager to win her heart. She's a treasure indeed, they all said, but Treasure turned each one away. I don't need a man who is in love with my wealth, she said once. I need someone who can carry my scars without shame, someone who sees me, not just my story. Men came to ask for her hand, but now people talked about her with fear, respect, and admiration instead of pity. She is so proud. She is waiting for the perfect one. She doesn't want to marry. Clara, once worried about her daughter would never be accepted, now found herself trying to calm her daughter's admirers. She will marry when she is ready, she would smile. She was born on her own time, and she will love in her own time. Clara's home was no longer the rusted compound it used to be. Her parents had long died, and Clara wished they were alive to see the child whose sake they abandoned her. Treasure built her a new house, complete with tiled floors, water heaters, and a beautiful garden filled with beautiful flowers and roses. Guests came from far and wide to kneel before Clara and thank her. You are the woman who gave us treasure. You are the mother of a miracle. They brought gifts, they bowed, and she was now called Noma, Mother of Goodness. Chieftaincy titles followed. Local churches organized Thanksgiving services in her name. Women who once whispered nasty things behind her back now lined up to be her friends. But through it all, Clara remained humble, her heart overflowing with gratitude. One evening, after a day filled with meetings and hospital rounds, Treasure returned home and found Clara sitting on the veranda. Do you remember when you first said my name? Clara asked. Treasure smiled and nodded. I do. I was scared. You cried so hard. I thought I did something wrong. Clara chuckled softly. No, my daughter, you did everything right. You gave me a reason to live. They sat in silence for a long time. Sometimes, Clara whispered, I looked at you and wondered if it's all a dream. That's my baby, the one they mocked, is the same woman saving lives every day. Treasure reached out for her hand and squeezed it. Mama, you gave me everything. I only gave the world back what you gave me. By the time Treasure turned 33, she was already a national icon. Newspapers called her Nigeria's gift to the world. Doctors and medical practitioners admired her innovative work with children's brain development. TV stations wanted to interview her so badly, they kept asking. Suitors kept pouring in like bees to honey. Handsome men with polished shoes and well-rehearsed lines. Some were humble, others noisy and energetic. They sent flowers, books, and even expensive wristwatches. They were young tech billionaires, respected pastors, senators' sons, and even older foreign diplomats. Some came with intentions, others came with lust, and a few came with mere curiosity. Mama, look at this one. Treasure would joke, handling Clara another colorful envelope. Clara always read them with narrowing eyes. This one said he saw you in a vision. This other one says he's been sent by God. Treasure would laugh, but deep inside she was wary. Her heart, though full of love for humanity, remained vigilant. "I'm not looking for attention, Mama," she once said, staring at the mango tree in their compound. "I want someone who truly sees me, not just my story." It was during one of her routine medical conferences abroad that he appeared, like a line from a forgotten dream. He was a tall, calm-voiced man named Alexander, a pediatric surgeon from Scotland, with a smile that reminded Treasure a quiet dance. They met during a joint seminar of inclusive medicine. Their friendship began with professional exchanges, then deepened through conversation about childhood, identity, and faith. Unlike others, Alexander never treated her like a miracle or a media darling. 6 months later, she returned home with him. "Mama," she began one afternoon after lunch, "this is Alexander. He has asked my hand in marriage." Clara, seated with a bowl of groundnuts, froze. She blinked at the fair-skinned man beside her daughter. "You want to marry him?" Treasure nodded. "Yes." Clara studied the young man. His eyes were kind, respectful. He helped clear the plates without being asked. He called Clara Mama with warmth. She sighed. "If he is the one who put all this peace in you, then may God bless you both." The villagers had never seen anything like it. Treasure and Alexander's wedding took place at a large open ground on the edge of the town. The event was magnificent and memorable. Many important visitors came from other countries, including doctors, professors, and diplomats. White tents, gold ribbons, and fountains of fresh flowers lined the walkways. The band played a mix of classical and high-life music. Food flowed like river. Continental dishes, local delicacy, wine from Italy, fufu from Enugu, jollof from Lagos. The villagers marveled at the sight of white guests dancing with wrappers tied around their waist. Clara, dressed in glittering wine-color lace, walked down the lane with Treasure and wept, not from sadness but joy. "They called you a mistake," she whispered. "Now look, your wedding is a miracle." That night, after the celebration, the couple flew back abroad, but Treasure's roots remained deep. She returned often, always with something new. The first baby arrived just a year later, a girl with golden brown skin, curled black hair, and blue eyes. They named her Amarachukwu, meaning grace of God. 2 years after, she had a boy, Tobechukwu, meaning praise God. And then came the twins, identical boys with chubby cheeks and playful eyes, named Kamsi and Chinaza. Each time she returned to the village, the children ran barefoot with others, climbed mango trees, played in the compound, and spoke both English and Igbo with surprising ease. Their laughter filled the compound. The villagers adored them. "Those are Oyibo children with Igbo spirit," the women would say. "They are not proud. They are very loyal. They eat roasted corn like our own." Clara, now called Grandma Doctor, moved freely between Nigeria and abroad. She had her own room overseas in her daughter's mansion, complete with a rocking chair and a Bible stand. Whenever she came home to village, she brought loads of gifts, wrappers, handbags, creams, rice, soaps, and many others. She would gather the women and distribute them with joy. Years later, Treasure's hospital expanded to 3 branches. She launched a scholarship for children with special needs and a mobile clinic that served rural areas across West Africa. Her story became a curriculum case study in universities. She was invited to address the United Nations. Clara watched proudly from the front row, wearing a necktie that nearly covered the women seated behind her. As Treasure stepped onto the stage and told the world about a mother who never gave up on her child, Clara wept again. They awarded Treasure a humanitarian medal that night, but she placed it around Clara's neck. "This belongs to her," she said. "She's the real doctor." Clara lived to a ripe old age, surrounded by grandchildren, honor and peace. Her final years were filled with laughter, storytelling and thanksgiving. On her 85th birthday, the entire village celebrated her. A statue of her holding baby Treasure was unveiled at the entrance of the hospital. Below it, an inscription says, "She believed when no one else did." The world called her Mama Treasure. We call her Hope. Treasure, now a global figure and a loving mother, never stopped reminding the world that her success was built on one thing: the stubborn, passionate love of a mother who refused to let go. Were you touched by Clara and Treasure's story? What lesson did you learn from it? Would you like to share your thoughts about it? Let me know in the comment section, and please like this story, subscribe, share with your friends, and don't forget to turn on the notification bell so you know when another heart-melting story drops. Thank you for your time. See you in my next video. Bye.